put yourself in this situation that you receive a call that is dated 20 years ago in the present. And you're speaking in the same person, experiencing the same reality as you. Your fates interchange and it tracks you in the present to kill you. Just imagine. A lady, Sanyon, is on her way back to her childhood home. A man stops by her, picks her up to take her to her house. The man's name is Song Ho. Her mom is very sick. She goes to see her mom, desperately needing a phone to communicate. As she looks through her old house, she finds a cordless phone, plugs it in, and calls her lost cell phone. The people who answers and found the phone demanded a reward for her to get her phone and ended the call. Later that day, Seon visits her mother's doctor, who tells her that she has a tumor in her brain that is operable, but the procedure is very, very difficult and she needs to be taken to a specialist. She sits with her mom in a hospital room. The woman tells her daughter that she needs to begin to prepare for her burial. It became so upsetting when her mother told her that she would like to be buried next to her father. So she storms out of the room and went to the grave of her father to pay her respects. She came back home and the phone rings again. This time the caller mentioned how her mother is trying to kill her and somebody must come to her aid. She realizes that the woman calling her is saying that she is calling from her own address. That night, Young is woken up by a loud noise in the house. Then she proceeds to investigate it and see that it's only a photo that just fell down from where it was hung. She tries hanging it again and discovers that the wall that it was hanged on has a hollow space behind it. And she proceeds to break down the wall. She discovers a room and proceeds inside and found a box filled with different things, including a girl's diary. As she opens it to look through, a photo of a girl drops from it with the date on the photo, telling her that this photo was taken 20 years ago. Exactly one day before her father died. She shows the photo to Song Ho, the gardener, and he reveals to her that the person in the photo is Young Suk, and the house used to belong to Song Ho's stepmom, who was something like a shaman. So she leaves the place and headed back home. She sees a store that has the name of a woman, Sun Ye, whom her mysterious caller has been asking for. Then she gets home and receives another call, and Seo Young concludes that the caller is the owner of the diary and the same girl that was tortured by her stepmom 20 years ago. They spoke again on another call, which ended abruptly. The mom drags the girl from 20 years ago and tries to burn her, but they struggle and light fire to the room that Seon Young discovered previously. She goes to the opening and she can see smoke and fire crackling from downstairs. Sometime later, the phone rings again and Seon Young tells the woman that she knows that she is Young Suk. She has found her diary with a photo from November 26, 1999. Young Suk says that it's presently the 18th. So Seon Young reads a passage from her journal a day before. She checks what she wrote, and when she confirms it, that is the same, Young Suk gets so afraid. Seon Young, aware that it might sound unbelievable, tells her about her theory of what is happening, that they are both living in the same house but different time. To confirm her theory, she finds a newspaper article from November 18 and tells Young Suk to watch the news and find a report of a plane crash that will happen. So later that night, she sees the report on the plane crash and calls Seon again. The two women connected and tells Young Suk about the future. When Young Suk tells Seon that her biological mom has died and the woman torturing her is her stepmom, Seon tells her how her own father has died. He died as a result of a fire when she was young, on November 21st, 1999. A little Seon Young and her family arrives at Young Suk's house to look at it, thinking of buying it. At this point in time, her father is still alive. Young Seon Young runs upstairs and finds Young Suk's room, asking her stepmom to open the door. When Young Suk appears at the door and realized who the people are, she calls older Seon Young again and allows her to listen to her father talking. It's a very touching experience for Seon Young, who hasn't heard her father's voice for a very, very long. Young Suk then comes up with an idea herself to save her father from the fire herself. Then on November 27th, when Seon Young's father was supposed to die, Young Suk managed to escape the house without her stepmother knowing and managed to travel to the house that Seon Young lived before they moved. In that house, Young Seon Young is watching a TV and her mom painting her nails while there was lunch cooking on the stove. Later, the mom leaves the house and Young Suk steals the key from where it was kept and proceeds to save the house from burning. Suddenly, the burn scars on her leg disappears. The entire house begins to transform, including Seon Young inside it, with a brighter feel and serene environment. Seon Young walked downstairs, then out of the house. Then she sees her beautiful glass house garden. As she enters it, first she sees her mom, then her dad. She begins to cry and then hugs him, leaving the parents dumbfounded. Then they have food together, goes out shopping with them and spending quality time with them, and enjoys the wholesome nature of an ordinary family. Later, she calls Young Suk to thank her. She continues to spend time with both of her parents, looking at them in awe and filled with surprise with her. Later, she was spending time with her family. Young Suk keeps calling her and got no response from her. She slams the phone angrily. When they finally speak again, it starts becoming apparent that Young Suk isn't well in the head. The big problem is, she could bring back Seo-young's father, she definitely has the power to take him away. But to be fair, while our main character is wearing fancy clothes and shiny nail polish, the girl in the past is still being tortured and fed rotten foods daily. If it was me, I would be so jealous and resentful if the only thing I could eat is garbage while watching fast food commercials on the TV. Seo-young then proceeds to find Young Suk on social media without any luck. She searches for her address and reads about Young Suk's untimely death as her stepmom performs an exorcism on her. She could not bear the emotional dilemma and tells Young Suk about her impending death that she will face. Her stepmom gets a knife from the aquarium and goes up to her room and attempts to stab her, and she discovers that Young Suk isn't in the room. Young Suk is standing beside her laughing at her. Then get the fire extinguisher to incapacitate her. She finds the knife in the room and then uses it to kill her stepmom. Afterwards, she calls Seo-young, whom is waiting worried by the phone, and she answers the call and tells Seo-young that she's alright and unharmed. Finally, outside of the house, first she had a banquet of meal that she has been craving for and endowed herself with new clothes. In the present, Seo-young welcomes Sung-ho into the family house as he comes in to deliver their fruits. In the past, he also comes to make a different delivery, but this time Young Suk stops him and opens the door. He later lets him in and the man asks her about her mom. She ignores him and asks him which of the clothes she's holding in her hands that he likes better. Then she proceeds to leave him alone. Sung-ho opens the fridge and perceives a foul smell. He opens the garbage bags and realizes it's filled with body parts. Then he freaks out, sitting on the floor as Young Suk comes out to see him. She's angry that he opened the bag and she goes off looking for something to use and kill him. Then in the present, Seo-young leaves the table and comes back noticing that Sung-ho has disappeared. She inquires about him and she notices that nobody is aware of his existence apart from her. She came out to his shed and naturally concludes that something must have happened to the friend in the past. She inquires around the whole neighborhood, including in the police station, and finds out that he was killed by Young Suk in the past. She gets to see the police notes, reads the newspaper of the past, and she directly talks to a woman in the neighborhood that was attacked by Young Suk from the past, and everyone is telling her the same thing, that Young Suk is dangerous. The police visit Young Suk in the past as well, making inquiries about the man. She denies, but the officer notices the fruit delivered in the house. She lies to cover her tracks again. The police officers realizes that she's not truthful and jots down a new note. This made her nervous. Then she blabs about a killing that happened in the village. The police officers, even though suspicious, still leaves the house. Later, Young Suk calls Seo-young as she tries to dispose of the body parts from the fridge. Seo-young picks up the phone and immediately asks her whether he killed the delivery guy, Sung-ho. Young Suk lies to her. Then Seo-young reads out a news article of her arrest on the day of the killing, and the article referred to Young Suk as a serial killer, and she was sent to life in prison. Young Suk realizes that she doesn't want to go to prison, so she comes clean and tells the truth, making it apparent to Seo-young that she really did commit the crime. Young Suk begins to question Seo-young how the police eventually found out that she committed the crime. Tells Seo-young to help her discover how she was captured so he could help her prevent her own capture. But she gets so angry as Seo-young ended the call without answering her questions. As Young Suk keeps trying to reach Seo-young in the future, her younger self in the past then knocks in the house with her father. He tells Young Suk that they are looking for her stepmom, who was supposed to meet them at the agent's office some days ago. Young Suk tells them that she might have fallen asleep and invites them to wait inside the house. In the present, Seo-young's father is teaching Seo-young how to drive. Then back in the past, Young Suk is preparing to kill him as he waits with the younger Seo-young in the house. The little Seo-young, eating strawberries, sees Young Suk spraying the father with a fire extinguisher. In the presence, while driving in a tunnel, Seo-young sees her father disappearing slowly right before her eyes as the version of the future crumbles away, with the car disintegrating and disappearing out of sight. Back to the past, young Seo-young backs away from the corpse of her father. The older version wakes up in the tunnel alone without her father present. In the past, Young Suk approaches the little version of Seo-young and tells her that her father's death is as a result of her not picking up the phone. Present day Seo-young runs back to the house, seeing the house in a very, very bad shape and with an inscription on the floor that reads, Seo-young, pick up the phone. Then the phone rings and she hurriedly picks it up. Then Young-suk torments her about the way that she killed her dad, making Seo-young so angry, threatening to kill her. What Seo-young did not understand is that Young-suk has the younger Seo-young tied up in a chair, making Young-suk have the upper hand in this situation. She then proceeds to tell Seo-young on the phone that she has 1 hour to find out how the police would arrest her, or else she'll kill her mother too. So the present Seo-young discovers her next move and how to take care of this situation once and for all. So she sends her to the location where there will be a gas explosion. But on getting there, Young-suk barely survived the explosion. So she comes back to the house very angry with Seo-young and decided to show Seo-young how upset she is by leaving her on the phone as she burns her younger self with boiling water as scars began to appear on her abdomen. Young-suk didn't stop at that. She keeps on tormenting Seo-young, telling her that she's the one responsible for her father's death in the first place. It seems that her mom turned off the gas before she left the house that day, but it was Seo-young that turned it back on, mistakenly thinking that she's doing the opposite. In the present, Seo-young sees no other way than to find the information that she wants. So she runs and breaks into the police station to get the information and sent to Young-suk. She directs Young-suk to the man that found the knife that she used to murder both her stepmom and Sung-ho that she thought she has discarded, and she uses that same knife to kill the witness. So Seo-young greatest surprise, the information about the capture of Young-suk disappeared from the notebook, but new information appears on the notebook as her mom looks for Seo-young at the police station in the past. Seo-young sees play-by-play of what happened in the past in the officer's notebook, who decides to help her mom too. Suddenly, all the bad information about Young-suk disappears from the notebook and the house began to change. When the police got to Young-suk's house with her mom, Young-suk lies that the father and the young Seo-young left the house. But Seo-young's mother finds her hair ribbon. She and the officer asked to search the second floor of the house but came out with nothing. Meanwhile, in the presence, while Seo-young came back to the house, she discovered that Young-suk has turned into a prolific serial killer. She comes down into the room that she found at the beginning of the movie and finds the phone down there. In the past, Seo-young's mother came up with the idea to call the father's phone to find out whether he's there or not. The mom uses Young-suk's phone to make the call, but instead of her husband, she called into the present, to the older Seo-young. The daughter screams at the mother to get out of the house before Young-suk, in the present, hits Seo-young on the head and the line cuts off. In the past, Young-suk kills the officer in front of her mom and asks for the phone back. In the present, the older Young-suk taunts Seo-young as her younger self calls her on the phone. The woman struggles for the phone until Seo-young knocks Young-suk out and grabs the phone. A simultaneous chase happens at both the past and the present. They both hide in the same room as simultaneously Young-suk, filled with murder in her eyes, slams the door aggressively. Suddenly, the phone rings and it's Seo-young's mom calling the police. But the call went to Seo-young in the future, who tells the mom to calm down and find a weapon. The woman finds a fire extinguisher, removes the safety pin, and waits patiently. The Young-suk in the past came up with the idea of luring the mom out of the room with her child. Young-suk attacks the mother with a knife from behind as her older self began gaining entrance into the room that Seo-young is hiding. In the past, as Young-suk is about to stab Seo-young, the mother holds the knife, struggles with Young-suk, and eventually throwing her off the second floor down to the ground. Then the older Young-suk in the present vanishes as Seo-young discovers herself alone in the room. Later, Seo-young in the present runs to the graveyard, thinking her mom is dead too. But the mom appeared there approaching her, smiling and asking her why she's crying.
I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have any suggestions on movies, series or TV shows that you'd like us to review or explain, please let us know at the comment section below. Thank you for watching. Please leave us a like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell and check out our numerous playlists for more videos like this. And watching Cloud Fusion.